when coextension of the conditioned and the unconditioned was aggressively asserted in Indian Buddhism, as in the works of Nagarjuna, distinction between them was made by means of the notion of two truths. The question of what kinds of statements may count as legitimate is the only standard of truth in this Buddhism, and this is thoroughly determined by the overriding soteriological aims of the entire Buddhist tradition. Every statement and every practice are justified solely in terms of their utility for the goal of diminishing suffering. That means that both Buddhist epistemology and Buddhist ethics are thoroughgoingly pragmatic. What is true is what is conducive to ending suffering, and what is good is action that is conducive to ending suffering. In early Buddhism, we may conceive these along the lines delineated in the parable of the raft. What helps one get across is good, is useful, is valid, is to be clung to for the duration of one's journey. What is on the other shore is neither true nor untrue, neither good nor bad. All such terms pertain only to the intermediate realm of what is relevant for the goal of ending suffering, and of course this means mainly Buddhist doctrines and practices. This is the realm where it is meaningful to speak of good and bad, or true and false, in which one is pragmatically faced with a choice between them. True is different from false, as clinging to the raft is different from sinking. But this has nothing to do with contradiction. It has to do with utility in the goal of ending suffering, which is accomplished by ending attachment to desire and definitive views about reality. When this model develops in the hands of Nagarjuna to the full-fledged two truths model, we have the same structure expanded and articulated with greater precision. Here, too, conduciveness to ending suffering is the sole criteria for truth. But in conventional truth, Nagarjuna includes two things: ordinary speech, which encompasses I, you, cause, effect, world, time, entities, etc., and specifically Buddhist doctrines, which includes Four Noble Truths, no self, nirvana, suffering, dependent co-arising, etc. The criteria for including both of these under the heading of truth is exactly the same. Not that they correspond to an external reality or can be consistently unpacked without self-contradiction, but that speaking and acting in accordance with them is conducive to the ending of suffering. Without ordinary language, it is impossible to give instructions on how to end suffering, to point out the problem of suffering, to point out the doctrines and practices of Buddhism, even those that contradict them. Then there is ultimate truth. Ultimate truth cannot be spoken or conceptualized, but can only be experienced. It is the end of suffering itself, liberation of mind, rather than any cognitive information about the world. Liberation of mind is not allegiance to any picture of how the world is. In fact, it is described only negatively, precisely as the lack of any identifiable predicates. Emptiness of essence really means simply ontological ambiguity, where any possible something is in and of itself incapable of simply being one way or another to the exclusion of other ways, where any possible something is in and of itself incapable of simply being one way or another to the exclusion of other ways. Definitive views about reality, that any given thing simply is one way or another, is this or that, in isolation from a relationship to other things, are shown to be incoherent and actually meaningless. We are told not to, quote, cling to the view of emptiness, that to regard emptiness as a view describing how things really are is worse than self-views as vast as Mount Sumeru, as the Vimalakirti Nirdesa Sutra says. Emptiness is the ultimate truth, but emptiness is only the highest, that is, most powerfully effective conventional truth. Ultimate truth is neither emptiness nor non-emptiness. These are, as they say, mere concepts. Emptiness as a concept, is something that emerges momentarily through the cooperation of the world and my cognitive apparatus. To regard reality as contradictory or non-contradictory is delusion. Clinging to emptiness, attachment to emptiness, means no more and no less than regarding emptiness as objectively true. Clinging and regarding something to be objectively, that is, more than pragmatically true, are synonyms. There is, of course, an obvious self-contradiction here. Is it true that there is no truth? The answer is, it is true only in the way in which truth is defined in Buddhism. Saying so is conducive for the liberation from suffering of living beings.